Some forms of exhaustion are difficult to explain because nothing appears obviously wrong. Life looks stable from the outside, routines exist, responsibilities are handled, and days continue to move forward without disruption. Yet a quiet tiredness lingers beneath everything. It is not the kind of exhaustion that comes from chaos or crisis. It does not arrive with panic or urgency, and it does not demand immediate attention. Instead, it settles in slowly and becomes part of the background of everyday life. Many adults live inside this state without realizing it, because compared to visible struggles, it feels subtle, almost insignificant. And yet it quietly shapes how life is experienced from the inside. Mornings begin with a sense of heaviness that is difficult to name. Evenings arrive without the relief they once promised, and rest no longer feels like something that restores, but something that simply allows the next day to begin. Often this exhaustion is not caused by doing too much in a dramatic sense, but by doing just enough for a very long time, enough to function, enough to meet expectations, enough to keep everything running smoothly. In modern life, stability often means consistency rather than ease, and consistency requires a constant level of emotional effort that rarely announces itself as effort. Days are filled with tasks that appear reasonable when viewed individually. Answering messages, managing schedules, maintaining relationships, keeping responsibilities from falling apart. And none of these moments feel overwhelming on their own, but together they create a rhythm that leaves little space to fully disengage. What makes this tiredness especially difficult to notice is that breaks still exist. Weekends arrive, quiet moments appear, and yet the tiredness remains, because rest becomes recovery rather than renewal. It is used to restore basic function rather than reconnect with anything deeper. Many people find themselves resting just enough to continue, not enough to feel genuinely restored. And over time, this creates a sense that life is moving forward while something inside remains unchanged, slightly behind, slightly depleted. Responsibilities slowly become the main structure of identity, being reliable, being capable, being the one who holds things together without complaint. And while these traits are often praised, they also carry weight that is rarely acknowledged. The inner experience becomes less about desire and more about obligation, less about curiosity and more about maintenance. In this state, emotions do not disappear, but they soften and flatten, not because they are resolved, but because there is limited space to fully feel them. Joy becomes quieter, frustration turns into background noise, and exhaustion becomes a constant companion that does not demand attention loudly enough to be addressed. Modern life often rewards this kind of endurance. It values productivity, emotional control, and consistency. And in doing so, it makes this quiet exhaustion feel normal, almost expected. Many adults assume this is simply what maturity feels like, that growing older naturally comes with feeling tired even when things are going well. Over time, this belief settles in, and tiredness becomes something to manage privately rather than something to question. People continue showing up, fulfilling roles, meeting obligations, and moving through their days, while carrying a subtle sense of depletion that never fully resolves. This exhaustion often goes unnamed, because there is no clear cause to point to, no single event to justify it, and without a visible reason, it feels difficult to acknowledge. Life appears functional, stable, even successful by external standards, and questioning that stability can feel unnecessary or ungrateful. As a result, this tiredness is often internalized as something personal, something to push through, something to accept quietly. Over time, this shapes how life is experienced. Moments begin to blur together, days pass without leaving a strong emotional impression, and the inner world feels quieter, flatter, and less vivid than it once did. Activities that once felt meaningful begin to feel procedural, and time feels occupied rather than lived. This does not happen suddenly, and it does not arrive with a clear warning. It unfolds gradually as routines become tighter and emotional space becomes smaller. Stability, while valuable, can sometimes create an environment where emotional weight accumulates unnoticed because everything continues to work on the surface. When life functions well, there is often less permission to pause and ask how it feels from the inside. The absence of crisis can make exhaustion feel illegitimate, as though tiredness requires a dramatic justification to be taken seriously. Many adults carry this exhaustion quietly, assuming it is simply the cost of responsibility, the price of adulthood, or the natural result of caring about things that matter. Over time, this quiet endurance becomes a habit, and emotional fatigue becomes woven into the structure of daily life. There is less room for spontaneity, less space for reflection, and less opportunity to notice subtle shifts in mood or desire. Emotional effort continues in the background, holding together relationships, expectations, and routines, without ever fully stopping. Not everything that feels exhausting is a problem that needs to be fixed immediately, and not every form of tiredness is a sign of failure or weakness. Some exhaustion is simply the result of long periods of emotional effort that were never acknowledged or released. Life can be stable and still feel heavy, because stability does not remove emotional weight. It often conceals it beneath routines that function smoothly on the surface. When life works, it becomes easier to overlook how much is being carried internally. Recognizing this does not require conclusions, diagnoses, or solutions. It only requires noticing that feeling tired in a stable life is more common than it appears. This experience exists quietly within many modern routines, often unseen, often unnamed, but deeply felt. Allowing space to notice this does not change anything immediately, but it can soften the pressure to dismiss it. Sometimes simply recognizing that this quiet exhaustion exists, and that it is shared by many others, can create a small shift in how it is carried. Not everything that feels heavy needs to be solved, and not every form of tiredness needs an explanation. Some experiences are simply part of the inner landscape shaped by modern life, and acknowledging them can be enough to restore a sense of clarity, even if nothing on the outside changes.